I was about to start saying something, I just didn't. Welcome back to the Sapphic Writers podcast. This is episode 4. It is February, so technically it is Valentine's season adjacent. So we will be talking about romance and writing, specifically the Sapphic kind, obviously. My name is Madelyn. I use she, her pronouns. I write all kinds of things that typically, and by typically I mean only, involve Sapphic people of all kinds. And we're going to, as always, hear who is present for this podcast. So let's start it off with Emrys.
Hi, my name is Emrys. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a non-binary lesbian currently about to move up to Aberdeenshire in Scotland. I'm a multi-arts practitioner working in writing and film and theatre. And I do stuff all about accessibility and outreach and stuff like that. And when I'm not working, I'm hanging out with my puppy. And yeah, part of the Sapphic Writers team. Producer, I think, is my official title these days. And that's me.
That's very official. I like that. Hopefully we can produce some great conversation in this podcast. I regret having said that.
I'll try my best.
Keep it in. This week we will not have Alice joining us, but either by week I mean month, because if these came out weekly, I'd be very busy. But we do have Sapphic Writers team member Courtney, who is now going to introduce herself. Go, Courtney.
Hello, my name is Courtney. I use she, her pronouns. I write fiction, also about lesbians, because what are the joys in the world? Yeah, there's a theme here, isn't there? I, at the minute, just work in retail. Well, I don't work in retail because we're all locked down. I work in retail at the moment. I'm trying to move halfway across the world to start an English teaching career, which is proving very difficult because of COVID. Other than that, I have a dog that I play with all the time, and I write, and I have been reading a lot, and I like scented candles. There you go.
That's a great thing. I also forgot to do our question of the day. So we're going to rewind. Emrys, the question of the day is, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food.
And if you don't have like one favorite, you can pick, if you could have like any food right now, what would it be?
I'm going to be really basic and say tortellini. So like parcel pasta.
Sure.
Or like really good quality parcel pasta.
Yeah. Wait, okay, I have never heard the term parcel pasta before.
I said
Julia speaking before her introduction.
I said parcel pasta.
Punished. But do tell us more about parcel pasta.
Well, I said parcel pasta in case people didn't know what tortellini meant, but I guess I've just confused everyone.
We all knew what tortellini was, but definitely not parcel pasta. And everyone's all laughing too. Please unmute yourself.
Well, there we go then. Yeah, tortellini, which is very hard to find vegan. So I enjoy it when I do find it.
Nice. And since we were still with Courtney, let's get some Courtney favorite food. Go.
See, you can't ask a tourist that just on the drop of a hat. We need like at least a day to think it over.
That is not a helpful answer.
I'm very fond of strawberries, and I'm also very fond of popcorn. There you go.
That's pretty good. Do you ever have strawberries and popcorn together?
I don't. I might have to try that though.
I'm not recommended. I don't know. I was maybe you knew if that was good.
I don't know. I'll try it. I'll give it a feedback on like episode 5 of the podcast. I'll let everyone.
Okay, so waiting with bated breath.
Yeah.
I love that. Wonderful. Jess, name, pronouns. What do you do? What do you eat?
Jess, they, them. I write. I write creative nonfiction about myself and my girlfriend and my friends, all lesbians. So that's that.
Brand.
What else? Yeah, I forgot what my title is, organizer of some kind. Sure. And I write for other people. I do content writing, and I am now actually. Probably this month will be my first month of being like 100% financially sustainable with my freelance career, which is exciting. Amazing. And my top 2 clients are also lesbians, so it's just going really well over here.
The circle of gay.
Yes.
I'm here for it.
Favorite food, shamelessly, I would eat Taco Bell morning, noon, and night every day, 365. Yeah.
You win the podcast. Yes, Taco Bell is trash and it's my trash and I love it. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for bringing this to my life. Is Taco Bell like a thing outside of the United States for our non?
Oh, don't even get me started on how much I had to travel in the UK to get to a Taco Bell. It was unreal.
There's one not that far away from where I live, and I have to agree with Jess on this. Taco Bell is like honestly next level amazing trash food.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. This is now the Taco Bell podcast with the gays and the lesbians. Both L's in Bell stand for lesbian, obviously.
There is absolutely one in Glasgow, but I've never tried it. I've avoided it. I'm so sorry.
I know you can make it vegan as well, because I ate there all the time during Veganuary.
Okay, well, that's
There's a lot
reassuring.
going on here. Okay, thank you, Jess, for inspiring great conversation with Taco Bell.
Anytime.
Last but not least, give us the info.
Hi, I'm Julia. I use she and her pronouns. I write poetry and fantasy. Currently working on a fantasy novel featuring what else? A lesbian elf with multiple romance arcs. I'm very excited about that. And at Sapphic Writers, I'm the community coordinator. So mostly I run the Sapphic soirees and help with the zines. And I'm also in that like overwhelmed tourist camp right now. There's so many food items floating through my brain. Any baked good, I like I don't know how to like pick between them, but right now I'm gonna go with chocolate mint cupcakes because I desperately want a chocolate mint cupcake right now.
That sounds. What part is mint? Is it like hard mint candy or like?
I mean, usually like I make them with like mint extract, so it's just like in the.
Oh, okay. It's not
and
like
you
green
can also
frosting.
put like candy on top in the icing.
Okay. All right. I'm here for that. I like that. I was picturing. This is a really dumb thing. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks this is funny, but I was picturing like a brown like chocolate cupcake with green frosting on top, and I thought it would kind of look like Shrek.
I mean, like, yeah. I mean, if you add green food coloring to your icing, then there you go.
What's mint stuff usually? I don't know. Okay, we're moving on. This was like I predicted. No one else thought this was funny. Fabulous. Great. I love that. Okay. As always, the question was the only conversation that mattered. But like I said earlier, we are going to talk about romance today. So I've got a lot of questions about romance, and we're just going to go around in here. Oh, I have a hand up from one Jess, who is welcome to stay unmuted and just talk.
Yeah. What's your favorite food?
Oh, yes. I'm here as well.
Yeah.
My favorite food is corned beef and boiled red potatoes, which might not be shocking for those who are on Zoom with me right now and can see that I have bright red hair. I am as Irish as they come. I don't know how our UK friends feel about something like that. I don't know if it's like, oh my gosh, there's the Irish girl. I don't know what kind of drama's going on in that part of the world. But yeah, so I love Irish food, and St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and I am excited for that, and I'm going to eat all of the food. So yeah, thank you for asking.
It's a very important comment from Emrys.
And Emrys says, in Scotland, we love the Irish. Thank you.
We do.
Nice. Well, now I know that I will not be, like thrown out of the country if I ever come to visit. And we can all go to Taco Bell.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I will do it.
Yeah, you got to do it for us. Awesome. Okay. Topic: romance. We're going to talk about it. I'm just going to jump right into the first question and randomly pick someone to answer it. So I'm wondering, we're all Sapphic writers, which means what sets our writing like apart from, I guess, non-Sapphic writing. There needs to be a term besides gross hetero writing. Is that it involves like the people we love, or that maybe the characters that we write and what they love, or if it's like a poem, like what kind of love it's about. So is Sapphic writing like intrinsically connected to romance? Does it have to be involving romance because of this sapphic nature of it? And I'm gonna go with Jess. Jess, what do you got?
This is a hard question. I did think about the question before you asked it, and I don't know if I have an answer still.
Okay.
But I will say that most of my writing is intrinsically tied with romance, but it's not all about romance. And I don't know if that even makes sense, but like, I mean, most of my writing is about my girlfriend, so obviously that's about romance, right? Yeah.
Sure.
But it's like also influenced by like what I had to go through to know who I was. And it's like, is that about romance or is that not about romance? You know? I don't know if I have the answer to that.
It's, pardon me, definitely a toughie. And I did not expect you. You're not gonna like get a bad grade on this. Don't worry. It's not gonna go on your permanent record.
Okay.
Sorry, that is a very thoughtful answer. And I think let's keep going and see if we can develop it a bit more from there. Julia, same question.
Yeah, I also thought about this before, and like Jess, I'm not sure yet if I have an answer. But I think like pretty kind of similarly to what Jess was saying, like obviously, like everything that we write isn't necessarily like directly and explicitly tied to romance, but like for me at least, the kind of the process of like when you have to like go through that process of like figuring out who you love and like how to go about doing that I think, and like and realizing kind of how much like stuff of like heteropatriarchy was like overlaid over like filmed over your worldview like until then, like, and then you know when you see like what it is to sorry, this is like getting very rambly, but when you see what it is to love for like the first time, like that for me like completely changed how everything about my writing. So that like there's like a very kind of clear line, the stuff that I was writing before, and like sometimes I go back to it and there's like one or two good things, but like for the most part it's like there's like a break that happened. So it's not necessarily all about romance, but like the fact of that, like I think in general, like for everyone, like how we love or like how we like love other people is like pretty intrinsic to like what we write and what we create. And then when you've had to like dig and uncover and like fight to get there, there's like that added layer.
Neat. Whoa, that was like deep. I feel like someone's gonna cry in this podcast. I'm just not calling it.
It'll be me. I'm gonna.
All right. Well, we'll see. Place your bets now on who's gonna cry. We'll see how we do. Jess, you looked at you had a point to come off of that.
Yeah, something Julia said made me feel like maybe, I don't know if it's about my writing personally or maybe other people kind of connect to this, but it's maybe more about stripping away the heteronormativity of like what other people that aren't sapphic or queer experience, and writing in a way that like you don't see the world through that anymore. And it's like, maybe it is still about romance, but it's about taking away these other layers that the rest of the world like is just so tunnel visioned to, I guess.
Oh, like can I
Please, no, just go ahead.
Like, I don't know, like, you know, when you like read something and like at, you know, kind of basic level, like a meme like level, you're like, wow, like you can tell like this was like written by a lesbian, or like this, like, you know, and it might, I'm trying to like think of an example. It might not have anything like to do with romance at all, but it definitely has to do with like recognizing yourself and like the way that that writer is like seeing the world. If I think of an example, I'll come back to
Yeah,
it.
please share with us your memes about that. You can read and be like, I know, yeah, that Kermit.
Oh no,
totally.
Okay,
lesbian.
I was reading a book by Laurie Marks, who's a wonderful lesbian fantasy writer. And like there's like this scene was about romance. She's actually writing at this point about like a straight man, and like and like the moment when he's a cook, and like the moment when he like realizes he's in love with this woman, he has this overwhelming desire to cook something for her, and I'm like, this is like I'm texting it to my friends being like, lesbians writing straight men. It's like,
yeah, if we had to pick one,
you're like, I believe this, but also like most men would not write this.
That's a really
which made it very wholesome, and like Laurie Marks does amazing wholesome masculinity, and would like also recommend her for that reason, but that's another tangent.
I love that. Courtney, do you got anything for us? Any thoughts on what we're talking about here? Or a completely different thing that's vaguely related is also fine, I suppose.
I was going to say, I think everything has kind of been articulated very well by Julia and Jess. Everything that has kind of been said is kind of what I thought. I think with the part about like it being intrinsically connected to romance, though, I feel like sometimes you can kind of separate the romance from the identity. So I'm trying to think of an example. So like, you can very much have a character who is a lesbian and that's just like who they are and that's it. Or you can have a character who is a lesbian and then gets a girlfriend and then the romance element comes in. Because I was thinking about like the fiction novels that I write, it's very much kind of like I could have it as just this is who they are and it's not, you know, it's not connected to romance. It's just that this is the part of them and this is where it goes. But that's boring. Who wants to read that? We want like sapphic love stories. So it just feels like it's natural to kind of add it in and to give that good representation, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's, like you said, we want that. Like, I absolutely want that. I don't like when I read only books about lesbians in high school. Yeah. I'm not doing it for math class, you know?
I still remember there was this one guy in one of the other writing groups I was in on Facebook, which I ended up leaving because it was horrifically bad. He was I said like, oh, does anyone else write like LGBT not fan fiction? Does anyone else write LGBT fiction? And this guy was like, oh my god, who would read that? And I was like, me, I would read it. Bro. I want it, give it to me.
Come on.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, right. Emrys, you write you're the poetry person. I mean, you're the only poetry person here.
Yeah.
That's like your thing. So like where's the connection here? Because I feel like it must be so much different like with the answers we're giving.
Yeah. I think it really is, because poetry is definitely like, as opposed to fiction, obviously Jess writes like non-fiction, creative non-fiction as well. So I think Jess will probably relate to this a bit more than anyone else might. But poetry is very much kind of writing what's happening in the here and now, or reflecting on your own past. And when you're sapphic, like it's intrinsically linked to your sapphicness, your whole life experience in lots of different ways. Like, obviously I've had life experiences that aren't related to my sexuality and gender, but things happened in a certain way because I'm sapphic. So would I say that, you know, writing as a sapphic person is intrinsically linked to sapphicness? Yes. But would I say that it's intrinsically linked to romance? No. Not as much anyway, because it depends on what's in front of you. Like 75% of my stuff right now is like romance, and that's great, but that depends on where I'm at in life, I guess. So yeah, I think it's a complicated one, isn't it?
Definitely is. I feel like we have not got an answer here at all.
I don't think anyone's given a straight answer. Not really.
I'm going to try to reframe the question to see if we can like pinpoint it more. Do you think you could write an inherently sapphic thing without at all, with like literally zero romance at all? Julia, go. I see that thinking face. You're on the spot. You got 3 seconds.
That's a question.
And if you want to wait a little bit, I can edit out the awkward silence while we all just stare at you.
Sure. Like, I mean, okay, like I definitely.
And how would you do that if you can, of course?
Yeah, I'm trying to like. So, I think it might. Okay, so I write poetry and fantasy. And in fantasy, it's like I'm actually like not entirely sure how I would go about writing something that was like sapphic without referencing romance at some point. In terms of like character building, even if there was no romance arc, even if it wasn't about that. Maybe we'll come back to that. But I'm trying to think, like when I write like poetry, for example, I don't know, I've been doing a lot of kind of almost like speculative poetry, like on the kind of like quasi magical, like sci-fi-ish side of things. And trying to think about using that. I'm trying to think of what the word is that I'm looking for, like imagining like a lot of kind of like almost not post-apocalyptic, but like love, like end of the world, living together, like thinking about how we like be with each other and like potentially like, I don't know, times that feel like the end of the world. Sorry, I'm always rambling but there is a point.
I want to read it.
We're approaching the point. And like I do think like that's pretty like inherently connected to like the kind of, at least like the like LGBT like communities that I'm like the like communities of like real people who are like it's not necessarily about like romance, but like yeah, like the like those like kind of collective like bonds. And I feel like writing about that, I don't know, feel like very, very like intrinsically sapphic to me, even though it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with romance. But I don't know, at the end of the day, like it also is about like who I love, and I'm not sure like if there's like a way to like fully untie it, but I could write a poem that like didn't explicitly make any reference to romance and have it be explicitly sapphic, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So poetry would be easier, basically.
I think so,
but
only because of the specific subject matter I'm dealing with, and
sure,
it's like you're not like trying to like build characters in the exact same way. That may be a controversial statement. I don't.
I would agree with that. I think it's definitely possible to kind of write sapphic experiences without writing about romance. I think I've got a bit of a unique way of looking at it because I'm actually like grey aromantic. So for me, I'm a lesbian, but that I don't even know how to describe it, because like my gender is also lesbian. And and like other non-binary lesbians will get that too.
Jess was
my
not
gender
furious
is you know, and so my lesbianness, my sapphicness isn't just about romance. It's not just about who I love. It's like intrinsically written into my life, into my story, into like who I am, and it influences every part of my work and influences how I think about a lot of things. So I think, yeah, for me, no, they can totally be separate. Mostly because what I would write is just as sapphic whether or not I'm in a relationship. And if I'm not in a relationship, I'm not writing about romance because the chances of me fancying someone is really low. But still, the sapphicness feeds into my life. So yeah, I would say it's possible.
Nice. Awesome. Just as someone who you definitely nodded enough that I think you might have something to say about that.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of an answer this whole time everyone else has been talking, and I feel kind of conflicted because I definitely, like Emrys said, like the sapphic identity is just it is every part of me. It is every part of what I do. It is every part of how I see everything, like breathing, like it is just so inside that it couldn't possibly be all about romance. There's just no way. And I think maybe most of you understand what I'm saying. Like, it's just very like, there's just no way it could just be about romance or sex, you know, like it's just not like that. Yeah. But I was also trying to think of like how I would write something that is sapphic without it being romantic at all. And I think that would be very hard. I was trying to think of like ways I've already done this. And like while writing my book and like the experiences I've had, I think like one of the collective sapphic experiences is like, oh, I don't experience attraction or romance this way. So like maybe writing about that kind of experience, but it's still like about a lack of romance or a lack of attraction or like a difference in it. Maybe it's not necessarily about romance specifically, but it's kind of like this disassociation with it in a sense.
Sure.
That's true.
But then I thought of another example, like how Julia was talking about like tapping into these like collective community experiences. And I wrote a blog series once about how the evolution of my style changed, like the further I progressed into like my lesbian identity, and like how, you know, when I thought I was straight, I would like wear these things. And then when I realized I wasn't straight, I would like wanted other people to know that I was gay and did not want to like straight pass or whatever to the general public because I just, you know, didn't want that identity associated with me anymore. So like what you wear is not about romance at all, but that was definitely a sapphic piece of writing. So, I mean, that one's not romantic.
Nice. Ooh, you nailed it. I like that. I love all of that. Courtney, round us off if you wish to.
Could you repeat the question, please? Because it's been a while since I've heard it.
Yeah. Could you write something that is like sapphic, that like one could identify as sapphic, that has literally no romance, nothing to do with romance? And
If
how,
it was,
if possible?
If it was a fiction novel, yes. If it was poetry, probably not.
Ooh, the opposite answer.
Because
I'm here for this.
I mean, maybe it's just that I don't know because I'm not a poet, but poetry is so like emotionally charged, and so much of it is about love and romance. Like that's we did poetry in school, and basically the only poetry we studied was romance and love poetry.
Okay.
But it's so tied to that. I literally can't think of like any other way to write poetry if it's not about romance. Okay. But with writing like a novel, I think I could probably do it. In fact, one of the novels I'm writing is about kind of realizing a sapphic identity, and there is a romance element to it, but I was kind of thinking while people were speaking, could I take that out and just make it about that? And I could, but then again, that would be boring because we all want cute soppy sapphic love stories. No, I could, but do I want to is the main thing.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I'm certainly not advocating for it. I think everyone should, I mean, if they want to have more sapphic love stories in their stuff. Yeah. Every book ever gets a sapphic love story now.
I had a related thought.
Please relate your thought.
Has everyone here seen Frozen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I want to know where this is going.
Point made.
Yeah. So Elsa's story in the first one, even like she's obviously a lesbian, and there's
oh my god.
Yes.
Okay. It is such
I like. Oh my flashback. That movie came when I was like 16, and like I did not know I was gay. Like did like none of these like connections have. I'm like sitting in, like my like diary, like freaking my like angsty like 16-year-old being like, I'm Elsa. Nobody understands me.
That's amazing.
Oh my god.
But no, that's a really good point.
Lesbian.
Elsa is totally a lesbian.
How is she?
Courtney is like, no, actually, I totally disagree.
Okay,
I don't disagree.
I'm just the whole like beginning part where she's like hiding in her room, and there's like the whole like conceal, don't feel, and she's like wear the gloves and like.
Yes,
the parents don't want everyone to know that she has magic powers, and so she runs away to hide herself, and then let it go. You know, you guys know the song. It's all about.
We definitely
it's a sapphic story. Yeah, it's a sapphic story, and yet there's no romance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
but we definitely want it. You know.
Oh yeah.
Hashtag give Elsa a good friend. With fire powers or something.
That'd be so sexy.
I'm here for it. That was the best point we could possibly have had.
Okay, Jess just won. I don't know how we're supposed to.
It's just over and over
We're
again.
done. See you later.
Still on the podcast. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's switch gears to I think the more fun part where we can positively talk about romance and not see how we can get rid of it, but more how it's the best thing that ever happened. And so this is less like personal, but more just, how do you know if you like read a sapphic romance? How do you know if? I'm trying to frame this in a good way. If it did not mention that it's sapphic, how would you know it was sapphic? Like, what makes a sapphic romance different from I have many air quotes and asterisks in the outline here, traditional romance, the less fun kind.
I mean, I feel like I can't answer this because I didn't even know that Frozen was about lesbians. So, like, apparently, I just don't know.
Yeah, you're not qualified for this podcast anymore.
No.
It's been nice having you.
I would say, in the nicest way possible to the straights, that I know if something is sapphic because it feels authentic and because I can relate to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Hey everyone, Madelyn here in editing mode. It is at this point in the podcast that my building's fire alarm went off for approximately a bajillion years. So I don't appear in the rest of the podcast, but my lovely colleagues did an amazing job continuing the discussion. Enjoy the rest of the show, and I look forward to actually being a part of the podcast I host next month. And don't worry, there wasn't actually a fire, and I'm fine, besides my shattered eardrums.
Okay, so coming back from the small mishap we had with Madelyn's fire alarm going off, we're going back to talking about sapphic writing and romance, and we're talking about whether it's a good thing that it kind of is intrinsically connected or if it's not. Jess, did you have a thought, or was it Julia?
I had a thought, but I don't think it was about this. I thought the last question was like,
how does it differ from?
Yeah, how does it differ from?
Oh, we skipped that one, didn't we? So, yeah. So we are talking about how sapphic romantic writing, differs from a lot of air quotes traditional romance. Was it Julia or was it Jess that had the thought that was speaking before the fire alarm madness?
Do you have a thought? I have a thought.
Okay, you can go first.
Okay. I mean, I did think about like what Julia said earlier with the lesbian writing, how the man just immediately wanted to cook that woman dinner or something, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what kind of feels like, I mean, obviously that was not a sapphic relationship, but like where they care about each other a lot. I don't know. Like, I don't really know how to say it, but like, that there's feelings from both people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, no, but I understand because I've always wondered in straight relationships, like, I mean, I'm a lesbian, so I don't know, but like, what's it like, you know? Like it must feel totally different. Like just from the get-go.
I do have a friend of mine who is a bisexual woman who is dating a bisexual man, and she previously has been in relationships with straight men, and she has said even just then, like, that relationship feels entirely different to the relationship she has with her current boyfriend now.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And like, I feel like you can see it as well. It's something you can really kind of tell. You can tell their relationship somehow differs to relationships that she's had and boyfriends that she's had previously. And I've heard similar things as well from bisexual women who have said the same thing, that like a relationship with a man is just so different from a woman. So I feel like maybe that's kind of shown in the romantic writing of traditional and sapphic writing. But like I did like your point, Emrys, about how it's like it's more authentic, didn't you say?
Yeah, but I might just be saying that because like I don't date a man, and so reading about a relationship that's not a sapphic relationship just wouldn't feel right to me, I guess.
Yeah,
like it just straight up feels boring to read. Like
yeah.
But I do I do think they're like definitely like there's a reason for that, and it's not just that like you know, they don't like date men ourselves, like I like there's for me like what tends to kind of define like sapphic romance and writing is that like there isn't like okay, and like so much like like I don't know, media, books, like whatever, the like the scripts for like heterosexual relationships are like all there already, and like there's so much that's just kind of like assumed. Like I remember having this experience reading Dune. It was like a very defining moment for me. I was reading Dune at like a very like bad emotional time in my life. And there's so like the main character, his name is Paul. This is like this teenage boy, and he's like off. I don't know if anyone else here has read Dune. Okay. He's like, it's like a good book overall for like, you know, sci-fi written in the 70s by like a straight white man. But like, there is like this moment where like, you know, like he goes into the desert and meets the like desert people, and there's like the one like girl who's like obviously gonna be the love interest, and it just like all falls into place like so like just stupidly easy. And like and it like I remember like you're sitting there reading it and just being like so angry that it was like so easy for Paul because all of the scripts were there already, and I'm like, okay, like Paul, get your like I don't know like desert girlfriend. And like in like sapphic romance, like you have to like there's like all these kind of like the writers have to like work to make that happen. So it's like, yeah, I mean, in theory, any relationship could be written with that work put in. And I assume there are good heterosexual romances out there that do this, that like put in that work. But like, it's kind of like it automatically like that work has to happen.
Like sapphic writing is like almost in so many cases like painfully slow, but like in a good way. Like it's so good. I love my slow burns and I want it to be absolutely painful the entire time.
Yeah, I feel that. But this whole question, Julia, just reminded me a bit of you anyway, because I remember you saying like, was it you that said like, you know, you thought romance was ridiculous in writing, you know, you said this ages ago. Until you realized that you were sapphic, and now you love it. And so I think this question in itself was like, this is for Julia.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in the last podcast. It was literally like I didn't, and this is why sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe I just like didn't like romance before because I like just like literally didn't know how to relate to it. And so this is all, so you know, maybe I would like those things more if I like went back and read them again. And there's probably like an extent to which that's true. But like, yeah, like, but it's also like the stuff that I would have been encountering before, and a lot of the time, like, it wasn't doing the work, it just kind of assumed that you like fit into this script, and then if you don't, you're just kind of like empty and sitting there like, this is dumb. Why am I reading this?
I remember reading, like, I've always been a big reader. And I remember reading books and always kind of going for the ones that definitely didn't have anything to do with romance. And the minute they even made like heterosexual romance as a subplot, I was just like, oh, I can't be bothered anymore. Like, this is a waste of my time, you know? And I knew at that point, I came out at 12, so it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a total mystery as to why I was finding it sluggish. But, you know, even then, I think I just kind of didn't want to be reading that kind of stuff. So like finding sapphic romance and like finding that I really like that kind of stuff is really, really funny to me.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I was always very much like Emrys, where I was always like, I hate like romance subplots. It's boring. Like, why does anybody have anything to do with this? And I read When Katie Met Cassidy, which is on my bookshelf there, which is just like a really cheesy romance book. And I was like, I love this. I want 10,000 more of these. I get why this is so popular. Like you just need that something else to make it like relate to you, that really kind of gives it that appeal, you know?
Absolutely. I found that when I read I can't even remember what it's called now, but I read it over Christmas, and it was just this short, sweet love story set in Ireland between two lesbians, and it was beautiful. So I get it.
Oh, that's lovely.
I think my first moment like that was probably reading Orphan Black fanfic. And I was like, oh. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, bless. Okay, so thinking back on what we've kind of talked about already, so talking about how romance is or isn't intrinsically connected to Sapphic writing, talking about like the slow burn of Sapphic writing, about like the relatability, things like that. How does your writing align with these ideas? So I guess with creative nonfiction, like with what Jess writes, I guess it's kind of a stuck answer, like, you know, there is slow burn or there isn't. You don't get to change kind of how your story is. It just kind of is how it is. Would you say you kind of agree with that?
I mean, yeah, I can't rewrite what happened. And it wasn't, I mean, I guess you can consider it a slow burn because we dated for a year before we met in person, but like actually dating each other was like really fast. It was not slow at all. So yeah. What was the question?
So just how do the things that we've talked about, so Sapphic writing and it being connected to romance, or like how it differs from traditional romance, how does that align with your writing? Do you find that your I've forgotten where I was going with this. So like, do you find that Sapphic romance writing kind of does differ from like traditional romance, or, you know, things like that pretty much?
Yeah, I would say it does differ, but like walking away from this conversation, I think I'm gonna make it kind of more of a challenge to write Sapphic writing without it being romantic. I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
How do you think you'd do that? Like, what sort of things do you think, just off the top of your head, do you think you could write with that?
I think trying to tap more into like that community experience of feeling othered, maybe, because like, I mean, with like the culture thing, like culturally, like what is it like being Sapphic? Like it is kind of about these different like micro identities. I feel like not like in a queer like micro identity way, but like, oh, there's like the Doc Martin lesbian and there's the DIY yeah. So like tapping into those different things, and like, I mean, when we think about Elsa and like what her experience was like, I mean, that is a very like clear example. Like so many Sapphics can connect to that. I think like probably lesbians in particular kind of connect to that. So like finding the like underlying current of the Sapphic experience and being able to reveal that again without romance being a center of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that would be interesting as well. I'd really love to see what sort of stuff you could write with it. Emrys, as the like poetry writer, I feel like you'd probably have like a few good thoughts with this about how your writing aligns with how Sapphic poetry maybe differs from traditional poetry.
Yeah.
So
like, as I said before, like everything that I do is Sapphic, even if it's not romantic. And my writing, content warning for miscarriage here, and also abuse, I guess, because I'm mentioning it. All my writing relates to my past experiences and my current experiences, and it's the way that I process. But those certain experiences wouldn't have happened if I wasn't Sapphic. I'm not going to go into the abuse because obviously that would have started from this kind of like illusion of romance. So I don't think that's necessarily applicable about, you know, because it was connected to romance at one point. But when I write about fertility, if I wasn't Sapphic, it would be a very different journey for me. Just starting from the sense that like, I might get a little bit annoyed as I talk about this, but just like starting from the sense that if I was like a straight person in a relationship, I would have been able to access fertility treatment on the NHS for free. And because I didn't, I ended up trying to conceive DIY at home as a lesbian, which is a very lesbian experience. and miscarried because I wasn't able to access the fertility treatment. So even though my baby could have been gay, I don't know, like, even though that's not necessarily like romantic because I was a single parent by choice at the time. It's intrinsically linked to like the discrimination that I faced as a Sapphic, because the access to resources that I had that could have prevented that experience from happening weren't in place for me. So I think every single part of my work and my writing is like definitely linked to Sapphicness in some way. But at the moment I do also just write a lot about my partner, and it is fluffy love poems with the word rainbow in them multiple times. So like, swings and roundabouts, I guess. That's my kind of perspective on it.
I mean, I guess it does also kind of vary depending on like what life experiences you're going through at the moment. Obviously, the writing's going to change based off what you're kind of writing on. Julia, do you have anything to add, especially as our like resident fantasy writer?
Hi. I don't know how much. I don't think anything I'm going to say is necessarily unique to fantasy. But also like I'm not 100% sure how good I am at like writing romance yet. But like, okay, like slight tangent. I did this like exercise like a month ago. It was like a writing prompt where you like take like a passage from a book that you found that was like mediocre and try to like rewrite it to be better. Which is like super hard. Like you can read something bad and sit there, and if it's like bad enough, especially like you can have no idea like what could possibly make it better. So I tried to do that with this like really bad heterosexual like romance scene from the sci-fi novel. And like I'm pretty sure I like failed miserably and realized that like like how kind of like just like almost like mechanically different it was from like everything that like I'd been trying to like do in my romance. Like just like the way it was like, I don't know, it was also like a novel from the 80s. But like despite being like written by a woman, it was like very much like for like the male gaze, and you can like so like I'm trying to I guess so like the I haven't really like talked about this at all. But the romance arcs in or like one of them in like the book that I'm working on is like very, very, very much like, I mean, obviously it's a fantasy world, so like all the details are different, and basically like all the like everything, all the facts are different. But is like very much like based on like the like my kind of very like the experience of like the first time I like fell in love, and like dealing with that. And so I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this because I did not prepare this answer. But like for me, and I think this is like a very like specifically Sapphic thing, like that like first experience that like did not go well was like very much this sense of like where you're like trying to like fight through like all of the like layers of like patriarchy that like stand between all the like the feeling that like, oh, like this isn't real, like we're just friends, like this isn't real, this couldn't possibly actually be a real thing. Like that is like that like experience is something like very much I'm like processing in this book and in this arc, which I also get to do through magic. And magic systems where reality is literally like falling apart, and like and it's all centered around like the heartbreak of like the protagonist. But don't worry, I'm also manifesting a new girlfriend in this book. So, like,
right, so we gotta have
there's a future girlfriend arc. So yeah, I'm trying to see if I'm coming back to the question. So like I don't know how good I am at writing romance. I might be like absolute garbage, so we'll have to see. This is all theoretical, but I do like try like those like kind of pretty like fun, those like fundamental like sapphic experiences of like falling in love and those things that like, I don't know, like straight people like don't deal with in the same way, are like very much like I try to like tackle those in my work.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So coming on to the final question, if we were to think about the oh sorry, I thought someone just deleted it. So if we were to think about what we've kind of talked about earlier, so in the question of, do you believe that sapphic writing is intrinsically connected to romance? However you kind of view that, whatever your opinion is of that, how would you change this connection if you wanted to? So the first thing that kind of came to mind for me was, as much as I say that I can write something that is sapphic but not romance, I feel like a lot of the times there's romance when it's not needed, or maybe where I'd rather just have a character kind of exploring their coming out journey or something else that sapphics kind of have to face and not have to deal with the romance element of it. So I think that's kind of where I'd go with it, is saying they are connected sometimes, but sometimes I kind of wish they weren't. Would you change this connection? Do you want to change this connection? Jess, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do think that they're at least half the time connected, maybe more than half. I would say like leaning more towards connected than not connected, but not that they can't be disconnected, as in the example of Elsa. And I don't remember what else I was thinking. What was the question?
Basically,
would I change it?
Yeah.
Would I?
How would you change it? Do you want to change it, or are you happy with them mostly being connected?
Well, okay, I guess maybe. This is tricky because I feel like I really want Elsa to be a real, like, I want the world to know she's a lesbian, right? Like, I know she is, but I want everyone else to know she is.
Yeah.
I want the straights to be forced to acknowledge.
Yes, I want the straights to be forced to acknowledge that Elsa is sapphic. So it's like, I don't really want to change the fact that they can be separate, but I want the straights to be confronted with the fact that we exist and they have to deal with that. Like, I want our stories to be heard, not just by ourselves. And I don't know how we can do that without making it romantic.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Because I mean, there are, there is media out there where it talks about like the gay or the sapphic experience, but are straights going to go watch that is the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I completely agree with Jess. And it's like, it's either romance or it's like trauma porn. You know?
Oh my
it's
God.
Either like, oh, here's this tragic coming out story that's like totally centered into a straight perspective of coming out, or here is romance. And I don't feel like there's room for, I mean, there's obviously other ways to share that, but like I feel like they're the two options that we have at the moment. And that kind of sucks. And I think I would change that if I could, but I don't know how.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me, I haven't seen the film, but it kind of reminds me of what is it, the movie Love, Simon, I think, which as like I say, I haven't seen it, but as far as I'm aware, has like a romantic element, but also has like a traumatic element of like, wasn't he like outed or something, or like all his friends were like horrible to him about it or something. So like, you're like absolutely right, we've got those two things and that's it. And it's like, what else can we kind of put out there to kind of force our stories to be told? The only other thing we've got is like romance, because we can always hook people in a good romance.
I mean, like, as a longtime activist, like, general activism and is also another way, but not everyone likes reading non-fiction about activism or the history of discrimination, or some of us just want to write out fantasies and other stuff like that. And so I guess it'd be interesting to kind of explore how to how to write in the Sapphicness so that not just Sapphics will get it. But also there's this kind of magic around knowing that it's just for us.
Yeah.
And like not letting straights into this really beautiful Sapphic bubble.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm that bothered. I'm happy living in my cottagecore Sapphic bubble without having to try and get straight people to understand it.
Yeah, I get that. That's okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I have a very immediate follow-up thought.
Is it about Elsa?
It actually not. I might circle back to Elsa. We'll see. But if not, I'm sure Jess has more Elsa thoughts.
Yeah, Jess is nodding.
Yeah, but just on the topic of like something like being for us, versus like being like, I don't know, like for everyone, or like for like, I don't know, the like straight gays. Like I like, this is something I don't know, I think about this a lot. Like that feeling, I brought up like Lori Marks already. I'll continue to bring up Lori Marks forever. Like that was like reading her books and like reading like a lot of Sapphic stuff, like where you have that like feeling of like, oh my god, like someone wrote this for me, and I know that like straight people reading it like wouldn't get it in the way that I would. Like there's this whole like thing where like one of the girlfriends is like a blacksmith, but like they can't be together. She gives the girl a sword, and like the sword, like she feels every time she uses the sword, and you're just like this like dumb romantic shit, but it's like so beautiful. And like all those little moments where you're like, I know that like this resonates with me specifically because of like, I don't know, like the history of like lesbian like literature that like I'm like that it's like engaging with, and that I've engaged with, and that I like live in.
Yeah.
And that's like a very like important like like the key effect I think that like art should have is like, it's the most powerful when you can tell that the writer or the creator has like made it for someone. But I also think that like when work is like really well written and it's like specifically made for someone, it's also valuable and like will be loved by many of the people it's like not specifically for. Like and like that is also like a really important effect of art, and those two things can exist in the same book. Like straight people read Lori Marks and get all kinds of stuff from her, because like even though like her stuff, like there's so much like just like the like lesbian is like diffused in it, it's also a story about like resistance fighters with magic powers, and it's about like colonization and like all like there's all this stuff happening, and like the way that she just shows relationships and like people being in relationships is, and like living together and forming families is just like generally like beautiful and important and like productive for like everyone to read. And and like knowing straight people who have read and like loved her, like they loved her work, like though even though like they weren't like, oh my god, this is the thing, this is like for me, this is my favorite book, like that's fine. Two people can like have the same experience, those two different experiences of the same work. And like, and this is my long-winded way of saying I wouldn't change the connection as it is, even though like obviously like so many of the tropes and like so much stuff like needs, like we need different kinds of stories being told. I wouldn't change the connection as it is, because I think like that's what makes it powerful, and that's what makes it valuable to like straight people who are forced to confront someday that Elsa is a lesbian.
And the oblivious lesbians as well, apparently, which is me, because I had no idea Elsa was a lesbian.
Okay, Julia made me change my answer, actually.
Okay, here we go. Right.
I'm changing my answer to I also wouldn't change the disconnection. I think the reason that I want like Elsa to be a lesbian isn't really well, it is for me, but it's like, you know, if the straights weren't going to be angry about it, then I guess I wouldn't care, you know? So it's like kind of for me, but it's kind of just to be like so that they'll be mad. And so I guess like my real answer is that I wouldn't change the connection, but I would just, you know, change the world instead.
Yes.
Yes.
Just do the activism outside of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh my
I love that
goodness.
so much.
Yeah.
Before we finish up,
Mhm.
does anyone want to read out any of their writing that's about romance?
No.
Just a nice idea. No? Okay.
I don't. Anyone else can. I'm just no. But anyway.
That's fine.
I mean, I could. Let me see what I got real quick.
I was gonna say, Jess, you must have a lot.
Yes!
It's a 6-year relationship. You must have something.
I just thought it would be a nice way to finish it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I can't because I've just restarted both of my big projects. So
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a fantasy like passage that I could pull up and have it be coherent on the spot. But I could read a poem if like.
yeah, I was gonna say, Emrys, do you have like a poem or anything about pickles?
About pickles. Oh, pickles.
I do have a poem that is like definitely about a sapphic experience, but it's actually pretty painful. But it's like not just about jazz, it's like about like really missing jazz. And then it's like this one might be more appropriate because it's actually kind of not about romance, but it's definitely sapphic.
Is it sapphic yearning? Because that's the most sapphic thing there is.
Yeah.
It's like yearning and like painfully just fucking hating COVID, honestly.
Oh, that's a mood.
Yeah, I feel that. Go for it.
Okay, let me just pull it up. Okay, this is exclusive content brought to you by my Patreon. It is called Bed Space. January left a space in my bed I consumed the year yearning to fill. First with so many spring months, shaking off fur that clung to the quilt since Ray followed frothed mugs to our beds from habit. But I held one coffee now, and he counted the space, too hollow to return much after that. Piper slurped salty tears from my skin all through the space of summer. My sister stayed here too 2 years ago, and the scraps of our late night laughs, of stealing laundry and pillows, of our one lone personality, of posters and bickering made the space bigger than ever. But Manda did fill it. That night we spent with our bored brother and batches of cards baked from brownies. I botched every match. But at 25, I don't mind these old competitions when their company reminds me that we are getting older and growing further apart. Through the fall, my friend and I flipped between homes, filling out backpacks for weeks and weeks, and through each gap without her, the bed space widened, a galaxy of gaps, and I gathered every single empty piece, like a copy of January 26th, when all the snot and the sobbing swirled in my stomach, so painful, I gripped a plastic grocery bag in case I threw up in the car. But I needed Allison, and I hated the needing, the haze and the highs, flipping Dutch Blitz cards with Connor and company, dyeing all of our hair red and decking gingerbread, broccoli casserole from the Thanksgiving dinner we split between both of our families, just like a normal couple, or whatever that means, because we haven't known it yet. Even Tessa, ever so healing, could never heal this hollow, not with our froth or face masks or sleeves of charcoal pore strips, or the steamers and the humidifiers with eucalyptus tea and lavender, or home-cooked food, but not the tofu, or poetry we hide and share, not even that evening phone call where I wept into the microphone, remembering all the airports, the burning sick in my throat, the endless knot in my face, wondering how many ways I can endure that ache before it takes me whole. Where she cried too, on the other line, wishing she could heal that hollow and having to settle for filling the bed space for just one night. Which she did with mid-sentence sleep and a head on shoulder like every morning together, waking and stretching in unison before departure. Always a damn departure. Again, the bed space surfaced, even with the dogs molding it to their bodies, fur to sheets. Again, the bed space surfaced, even with Manda whispering before sleep, unpacking all we thought we understood about the childhood we shared. Again, the bed space surfaced, even with Allison filling it with careless leg twines and sounds of rainstorms and cracking fires. Again, the bid space surfaced, even with distinct tumble for glasses prolonged by a few scrolls and a closeness that Tessa opened arms for most mornings. I don't sleep the same now. Every morning I wish I never erased the coffee rings that Jazz left on our nightstand. I wish I let them stain the paint-coated particle board. Her hoodie hangs on my body and it never feels like a hug, but I still wear it to bed, hoping it will help me. My mind remembers how whole we had it. 10 half days in bed, deep lustful nights, the ghosts of gasp, our days of games, bed always filled, not this year. We have a space and it's hurting all of us.
Julia,
mate.
you're about to cry.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
You know what you're about to solve. Oh my god. I mean, I can understand why. Oh my god.
That was gorgeous. Thank you.
That was actually inspired by all of you guys, because I don't write poetry that often, but since everyone here writes poetry, I was like, I think I need to try it again. And that's what happened.
That's what happened. The power of poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I will get you on a plane to here, like through hell or high water. Like,
Yes. And then everyone can come to visit me.
Yes.
And Julia, you have to get into Glasgow Uni and also come.
Whether I get into Glasgow or not, I am coming to visit.
Yes. Can I read out a poem?
Please,
Of
yes.
course. So I write best about Rob when we're not in the same place. And I wrote this like probably around this time last year when we were long distance. We weren't long distance for long, but like still wrote it around then. And it's called The Greenick Rainbow because I wrote it at work. Yeah. I saw a rainbow today, a perfect arch over the Clyde curved. It reminded me of the way you curve into me in your sleep, your hands grasping mine, a limpet. Safe, warm, happy. I saw a rainbow today. The more I stared, the brighter it got. It reminded me of the way you blush when I call you cute, or dream-dyke, or gorgeous, flushed, flustered, hot. I saw a rainbow today, so near but so far away. It reminded me of the way we laugh over FaceTime 299 miles away. You're home soon. I saw a rainbow today. The colors merged together, bold and clashing. It reminded me of the way I feel when I'm with you, like a million tiny fireworks, smiles bursting at the seams. I saw a rainbow today. And baby, it wasn't half as beautiful as you. There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, you're so good at like reading. What?
It's definitely like a spoken word poem, not one that you just have to read. That's so good.
Yeah, no, I'm a spoken word artist more than I'm anything else. I'm also an actor, so I perform. That's what I do. Yeah. Oh, where's Jess come?
No. It also said usual plugs and outro, but I don't know what the usual plugs and outro is. So this is like my message to Madelyn. Please do what the usual plugs and outro are.
Oh, should we do it instead though? Probably. Who wants to do the plugs and outro?
I don't know what they are.
I can try.
Okay, go for it.
Go.
Hold on, let me look at my calendar so I see what I got going on.
Get in the zone. Get in the zone.
We just talk about everything we have coming up, right?
Yeah, and then mention our socials, and then everyone gets to mention their own individual socials if they want, and then bye-byes.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Don't forget to get involved in all of the things we have going on. We have bi-monthly Sapphic Soirees, where we meet up and write and give each other feedback on our work. We also now have the Sapphic Readers Book Club, which meets sometimes Thursdays and sometimes Saturdays. Maybe.
Yeah.
And our fantasy zine will be closing submissions.
Wait, it closed submissions last night.
It's close to
So
We have
our fantasy zine are closed, but we'll be releasing the zine soon. So look out for that. And
Yeah.
for submissions for our upcoming zine on a to be determined topic.
yeah, potentially pride, potentially history. We'll have to see.
What a closer there.
Oh my god, we need Madelyn.
I'll mess it up. She's gonna be reading, like, it's going through this being like, what the hell?
What are these people? Is there anything else we need to mention?
The zine launch for the fantasy zine will be Sunday the 28th.
Yes, it will be.
Get your ticket on Eventbrite on the website.
Oh, right. And also please follow us on our social medias at Sapphic Writers Online on Instagram, at Sapphic Writers on Twitter, and check out our website, which is sapphicwriters.squarespace.com, because we're too scared to buy a domain name. And if you want, I have an Instagram.
Yes.
Cats and Dykes, because I have a dog now. It's not Cats and Dykes anymore. Anyone else want to do an individual promo?
We are also recruiting currently. We are open for applications only from Black and Sapphics of color. So if you are not white, you are eligible to apply.
And we're also recruiting for a workshop leader from Scotland to run a 6-week block of poetry and spoken word workshops. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So
if you're a poet or spoken word artist in Scotland, please send us your application.
And
I'd say that's all.
does anyone else want to promo themselves?
If you liked what you heard from me today, please follow me on Twitter at Koality Gay, like Koala the Bear, TY Gay. Also that on Instagram. And then my blog is alesbianandherlaptop.com. And you can get exclusive content on my Patreon.
Anyone else want to push themselves?
No, I don't have anything to push. I was going to push a lesbian and a laptop if if you weren't going to do it, I was going to do it.
Okay, on behalf of Courtney, I will say that Courtney has a food Instagram.
No!
Please go and follow.
That's not Sapphic. That's not writing.
You're a Sapphic, so it counts. Courtney's food Instagram is, and
all the food you eat is Sapphic food.
I can't find it, but it does exist.
It is at Cherry Coloured Kitchen.
There we go.
You don't have to follow it. There's no writing involved, and the only Sapphic thing is the chef.
Well, my Instagram isn't very writing-y either, but you'll see some very cute lesbians and some very cute animals on there, so it's worth it.
Julia, do you have anything to plug?
No. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. I'm Julia De Silva on Facebook, if anyone's still on Facebook.
I imagine the amount of time you have not being on Twitter and Instagram.
You can also follow Cherry's food TikTok at Cherry Colored Kitchen.
Oh my goodness!
And that's colored with a U, the UK way.
Hey, I'm a Canadian way.
My bad.
Is it? How interesting. And also come to our Facebook group, which is called Sapphic Writers Community Group, because I renamed it today because people kept going to our Facebook page and posting on there instead. And I think that's everything.
What can we plug for Madelyn?
Oh,
Madelyn doesn't have any links.
I mean,
but Madelyn's awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe she could just like add in a voice clip afterwards if there's something that she wants to plug.
Honestly, she might have to do this whole promo and outro all over.
Yeah,
this mess. They should have just not tried.
Madelyn, we tried. You can watch Elsa the Lesbian on Frozen.
Actually, just go rewatch Frozen.
Yeah, I'm
Right
gonna come back. Right. Okay. Podcast episode 5. I'm coming back with a conclusion on whether strawberries and popcorn is good and whether I truly think Elsa is a lesbian.
Wait, strawberries on popcorn
Yes.
I'm really
at the same time in your mouth?
Yeah.
Did you mean my little version of autistic meltdown? Like, I'm autistic. I can't deal with my food touching. That would make me cry.
Not like a strawberry, like candied popcorn. We have to have that somewhere in the States. It's gotta be.
You've got everything in the States. You must have it.
We gotta.
all right.
Okay.
Right. I think we've plugged everything. I think we've talked about Elsa too much. I think we're done. Jess, the look of
I think the other folks did a great job, actually, so I don't have much more to say. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get updates on all of the events you just heard about. Join the Facebook group to be a part of the great discussions of all things Sapphic writing we have there. You may have noticed that the Sapphic Writers podcast is now on YouTube instead of SoundCloud. Subscribe here for future podcasts and projects. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next month.